Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Champions in Seoul is coming up in just a couple of days, and big predictions going down as to exactly what's going to happen in this tournament, especially the group of death. The group with Gen.G in, the champions back at Masters Shanghai, Sentinels in, the champions at Masters Madrid, and of course Team Heretics as well, a serious force all season long. Who's going to get out of that group? s0m does not reckon that on recent evidence Sentinels are going to be the ones to do so. Can they still go on to win the tournament, however? Very much interested your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, these are some predictions, of course, for, the champions of the event, the maps that are going to be played the most, lots of predictions for Gen.G. I quite like the outside Fnatic call, to be fair, because difficult to say how they're going to get on from that region, but Fnatic, to be honest, creeps up towards the end of the year as becoming the best team in EMEA yet again by a relatively considerable margin, it felt like. Obviously, we've got, top average player ACS, lots of people going for ASPAS. Most teams in the playoffs is actually very split, though. The Americas has felt like, for the last few years, well, at least for the last couple of years, the strongest region. Nowadays, that's not quite so clear. EMEA, Pacific, of course. China, in terms of consistency, isn't there quite yet. And to be fair, unfortunately for China, they've got, a rather challenging group for the likes of FPX, and we'll see that here in a second. These, of course, Zeltis' predictions, who's going to get out of the groups. He's got Sentinels, he's got Gen.G. Not everyone agrees, though, with that. Generally, you're going to have Fnatic DRX from Group A. You're probably going to have Live Vitality from Group C. Group D is kind of difficult to call, but I would agree that G2 and PaperX are definitely the favourites. Group B, though, is the challenging one, depending how things go. Quickly on Ascension as well, here we have Calypso of the Falcons team, and they are the ones that won the kind of MENA Challengers League, and therefore they are going to go to Ascension, and we'll see if they can qualify for the league next year. Getting everything resolved in the Americas not happening quite yet. Dark Zero, they bow out of the tournament to Oxygen Valorant in the end, and as when it says 0-2, they played well. So yeah, as Dapper says, longest game overplayed. Good luck in whatever life throws at you. So wishing the best for all of these guys. But in the end, only a couple of teams can actually make it all the way through the American Accenture side, and this is what we see right about now. So yeah, Oxygen, they took out Dark Zero. They moved on to play TSM, and this is all happening over the coming days. Today, of course, the 27th, there is a couple of days off, and then we will find out which of these 4 teams will be the 2 remaining that get to go to Ascension, and then, of course, have the chance to qualify up to the main league for next season. This, as well, was a screenshot that was going around yesterday of the NRG team that was being trialed last year. So just to make this clear, this is not the team that they're trialing right now. This is a team that they were trialing last season, and, basically, around about 12 months ago, during Champions for last year, NRG were trialing rosters. They had, obviously, Ethos is subbing in or whatever, like who was on his account. Victor, obviously, Marved was here, still under Sentinels at the time. Then they had Ye and Narrate. So this was before Ye, of course, went over to Bleed, and they were considering this Ye iteration, and obviously seemed to be doing rather well. Not the team they went with in the end, but, just maybe going to show that Ye on this, obviously was on the Killjoy here on the Sentinel, that may have been, and maybe still is, the way to go for the team. Just because if you look up Ye's profile here, right, it's, there's nothing on here for quite some time now, unfortunately. I mean, we haven't seen anything from Ye since he retweeted this. Even when they supposedly released him, we just don't really know what's going on. So, yeah, difficult to say whether Ye is even still with Bleed. We don't believe that he is. He's probably riding off into the sunset with the bag of money that he made, and it's all fine. But, I would like to see him return at some point or another. Let's talk, though, predictions for the World Championship, because there was lots of these going around over the last couple of days, and some went through and did his predictions for the groups. So, just to quickly break down the format again, there are going to be 16 teams in the World Championship. There are 4 groups of 4. They play a GSL-style group stage, which is win 2 before you lose 2, and they seeded the groups the other day, and some of the groups are rather harder potentially than the other ones. So, as Sen say, yeah, Gen.G is good. Are they a match for the power of friendship? Now, they play the very first match of the entire tournament, and this may prove to be one of the most important games of the entire tournament. This is what s0m has to say.
Group A, DRX Fnatic eliminated Billy, Brew. Group B, Gen.G, Heretics, Sentinel, X, Leviathan, Allen, I think PaperX is gonna bomb out, no cap.
So do we agree with s0m's prediction on this one, right? Of course, going to be watch partying, you'd imagine, the World Championship after what's happened with his NRG team in relatively recent weeks. But they go in, obviously, Sentinels, as theoretically one of the bigger favourites for the tournament. The issue is they've got to get out of their group, right? And it is not an easy group at all. Gen.G, they won Masters Shanghai. They continue to look very, very strong indeed in their regular season playoffs. So they are, in many sense, the favourites for the entire tournament. So it's basically impossible to predict against Gen.G getting out of the groups. They look like the team that's going to be most likely to do so right about then. Then it comes down to FPX, and FPX are actually a good, serious threat team, a team that Sentinels cannot take lightly if they were to play them in the group stages, thinking, okay, let's say they lose to Gen.G, they end up playing FPX, it's like a free dub, we'll move on to the decider game. Possibly, quite possibly not. But the likelihood is for Sentinels, let's say they lose to Gen.G, then they might play FPX, and if they win that, they will play the loser between, theoretically, Gen.G and Heretics. Let's say that's Heretics, what happens then? Because Heretics have been good this year, but very good actually. They've made a deep run in multiple tournaments this season. Carmine Corp, however, they were battling in that region with Heretics at the start of the year. They fell off big time, and now it seems like, Fnatic are maybe taken over as the team from that region that are potentially the team to beat. And Heretics, yes, Sentinels did not have a good run towards the end of the Americas playoffs this stage. They bowed out. They required a result for Lev to win in order for them to get the points they required in order to make it to the World Championship. Okay, they had the points and they'd secured them earlier on in the season, but they needed that extra victory from Lev to get them over the line. So they needed some help, Sentinels, to qualify for this year's World Championship because they just didn't really deliver in the second half of the season, and that's kind of why they are not considered to be a big favourite for the group. I think it's a real toss-up between Sen and Heretics. I think the Sentinels can definitely do it. I think I may well favour them to do so just because on the international stage, they've just been slightly more potent than Heretics have this season, and I don't think Heretics have looked their best either on the run-up to this tournament. The other thing that may, well, we'll see if it helps or hurts, but I think it's certainly going to be a helpful thing if Sentinels are scrimming a lot against Fnatic, right? Just because, I don't know, it depends on the regions, depends what the teams decide to do, but we know that Fnatic and Heretics are in the same region. They may or may not practice against each other, but the feeling is that Fnatic are going to be a pretty solid team here coming into the World Championship since, of course, the Hero acquisition, they've looked good. I mean, Leo is obviously dealing with some stuff behind the scenes. Hopefully all's well with him, but he's probably not going to return for this tournament. Hero's there instead, but despite that, that small change has actually maybe catalyzed a bit of a resurgence here. So I think Sentinels will probably benefit a fair bit from playing Fnatic in their kind of practice leading up to the tournament, because Fnatic seem to be a real potential top contender, right? So very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this in the comment section below. This I thought was pretty interesting, artists, ranking the 2024 champions teams, Fnatic, Gen.G, Leviathan, then he's got Heretics, G2 for esports and Paper X. So I guess in his mind, it is going to be Sentinels third in the group because they're not on the same tier as Heretics are, and that right now is probably justifiable, but, in these best of three situations, a lot of things can potentially happen, and obviously at the bottom he's got a lot of the Chinese teams, and then Edward in the C tier, but difficult to imagine any of those teams making it too far at the tournament, but of course it's in Seoul, South Korea. It is, I think sort of they will be hoping for a big performance in the Pacific teams, especially the Korean players, and I'm sure the players, of course, will be hoping for exactly the same thing. A couple of interesting stats just to close out with. This is pretty interesting. Most assists per 24 rounds in the Americas, and Zeppa is tied with Ethan for number one. So I think Ethan was number one last year, he's now number one this year again. Obviously different teams, but still the same result. The only player for NRG that actually appears on here, a couple from Sentinels, a couple from Leviathan, and Asna here as well. I think it was his birthday maybe today or yesterday's happy birthday to him, but he's certainly talking about his future as well, because who knows what's going to happen with 100 Thieves over the coming days. Speaking of 100 Thieves real quick, this was their development this season, the maps they most played, the maps they most liked, but also their win rates in terms of attack, defense, stuff like this. I think this is, I wouldn't say misleading precisely because the numbers are true, but it's worth considering that in the second half of the season it seemed like the other teams they played started to get better, and therefore it was just more competitive in general. So I don't really think it shows that they regressed, but they just weren't quite as good as they would like to have been this season. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.